Hi, I'm Darnell with Wave Oven Recipes, and here I have the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Oven, and we're going to get this unboxed right now. Alright, here it is, out of its shipping box, and this is a big box, I'm telling you. This is a big box for a cooker, but it's got some nice little packaging writing about like a 90-second preheat, 2-level even cooking, no rotation required. You know, it's got some nice stuff up here, some nice selling points. We're going to get it out of this box here now. First thing we encounter is basically your paperwork, all the warnings and the manual and all that good stuff. They also give you a recipe book with 15 mouth-watering recipes. They tell you some information about how to use the cooker, the recipes with some nice pictures of some of them. Here's a box with some of the accessories, the roast tray and the sheet pan, 2 sheet pans. So here are the 2 sheet pans that come with it, and the roast tray that also comes with it, and of course that fits inside of either of the sheet pans. And the first thing you notice about this cooker is that it has the buttons on the handle, like this is the handle to open it up. And you've got buttons basically literally on the handle, which is pretty interesting. And we open up in here, we've got a couple of these racks. And also inside we've got the good old like crisper basket or air fryer basket, whichever type of term you prefer for it. Also inside of here we've got the drip pan that slides out. So you look at that. Here's the drip pan. So just slide that in. You slide that in up under the heating elements. And in order to get that drip pan in and out, you do have to open the cooker up. It's not the type of drip pan that slides out from underneath without you having to open things up. And notice the power cord. It's a 3-prong type of power cord with the ground on there. And one great thing about this cooker is that it's 1800 watts. So a lot of power, so it can heat, and we'll see how good of a job it does. But typically cookers that put out like 1800 watts are able to cook things very well. This cooker can go from 85 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So that means that in one cooker you're able to do everything from proofing dough, up through dehydration, up through roasting, up through baking and air frying and broiling. You can do it all in this same cooker because it can go between 2 very extreme temperature ranges. Alright, so on a close-up view here now, I want to give you a look inside of this cooker. So when you go inside, you see that you have 2 lower heating elements. You have the air fryer fan in the back. On the sides you only have your rack holders. Up top here we have ourselves 3 heating elements. You can see them lined up. So you have a total of 5 heating elements plus the air fryer fan in the back, or convection fan if you will, and you've got your 2 heating elements on the bottom there. You can even take this guard off of the air fryer fan or the convection fan, and you can see in there, you know, we can see the fan uncovered there without its protection on, but that makes it easy to clean this cover. And when I look at this air fryer fan, I'm not seeing any like heating element on the fan. And with the air fryer fan, also I want you to see down here, see my hand? My hand goes beyond the fan. It's like my hand can go up and down the sides here on each side. It's like the fan, you know, kind of sticks out from the back of the cooker a little bit, and you kind of can reach on the sides, and I feel on the sides, you know, openings and gaps. So it's like somehow or another, I guess they've engineered it so that that fan, you know, I guess can pull the air in from the sides and swirl it around from the back. But that's pretty interesting design there. And I also wanted to show you that on the sides you have some air holes. They're the same on each side, but also on the back there are not only areas for air here, but there's the area here where the fan is has gaps, and also along the back sides there's also air gaps, or I should say air vents. And this cooker is supposed to be able to hold a 5-pound chicken along with a sheet pan of vegetables. So like you could have your chicken down bottom and over above it have a full sheet pan of vegetables. It's supposed to be able to hold 2 12-inch pizzas at the same time, or even a 12-pound turkey. Now, some interesting things that they recommend from the manual, they mention to prevent sticking on the accessories, use a high smoke point oil. Now, that's something that we, usually get from a lot of companies as far as these cookers. For greasing, use a high smoke point oil, not like extra virgin olive oil, something with a higher smoke point. They also mentioned, though, that you can use foil or parchment paper. Foil or parchment paper are recommended. There's a lot of cookers where the manufacturers warn basically against using foil or parchment type papers. But in this cooker, you're good to use your foil, you're good to use your parchment paper. They recommend it to prevent sticking on your accessories. The only thing they warn against is not covering the holes on like this pan here, this roast or grill type pan. Don't cover it with any paper that would cover the holes, because those holes are there for a reason, to help prevent smoking and to help catch grease. Also, in something like your air fryer basket or your crisper basket, you don't want to cover the holes there, because the holes are there for a purpose. Now, something else interesting from the manual, they mention they recommend to unplug the cooker when it's not in use, and that's interesting. They want to, I guess, make sure that you unplug for safety when it's not in use, but there's no clock, so there's no reason not to unplug. Alright, so now we have the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Oven next to the Cuisinart Chef's Convection Toaster Oven, which is also similar in sizing to the Neway Bravo XL Smart Oven. And you can see that the Ninja is taller, no doubt that it's taller, so it can, hold more on racks. So that's pretty cool. The Cuisinart is wider, but a lot of that width is not really cooking space, because you have like the control panel here on the side, whereas on the Ninja you don't have a control panel. So with the Cuisinart, and excuse that it's very well used, but with the Cuisinart you've got about maybe almost 15 inches of width going on, about 14 and a half. With the Ninja, and I'll do more measurements of it later, but you've got going across, you've got about the same, about 14 and a half inches of width for interior space. But it looks smaller as far as width, because a lot of this is control panel here with the Cuisinart. The Ninja is also definitely longer in the back. The Ninja goes, further back for sure, much further back than the Cuisinart does. So those are some differences in size there. But since you have the same width and more height, you're going to definitely fit more into this Ninja than you're going to fit into the Cuisinart. And next we have the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Oven next to the Emeril Lagasse Power Air Fryer 360 XL. And what we can see here is that the Ninja is just marginally taller than the Emeril. The width, the Emeril's a little wider, but it does have that control panel here that's taking up some space. As far as the length, the Ninja is definitely longer, much longer in the back than the Emeril. So we basically, if we just kind of measure up here with the Emeril, we've got just about, well, not even about 14, just 14 inches exactly. 14 inches exactly, versus here you got just a slight bit more. You've got like 14 and a half, so you got just a slight bit more space here, which is going to help you for things like a 13-inch cooking pan that has no handles, going to fit in real nice and easy there, whereas with the Emeril, it's kind of, maybe if you can kind of squeeze it on a rack holder, and I've had it on these rack holders and it'll fall off, it won't stay stable. So something like your 13-inch cooking pan with no handles is going to go much nicer in the Ninja. And just for testing's sake, here's a 13-inch pan with handles. When you try and put that in, you're not going to get it in due to the handle length. So that's not going to be a starter there. But as far as height, we see that, like I said, it's a little taller, but when we look at the actual interior height, we've got about a little more than 10, not even 10 and a half. Whereas on the Ninja you have over 10, you've got about 10 and a half. So here you're dealing with a little more than 10, but it's like right here, it's like not even 10. Let's put it on the, like maybe where the first rack level would be about. You're talking about a little less than 10. And when we go here and do the same here, we've got maybe just a little less, maybe a little less than 10 there. So I think with height, these are probably about on par with one another as far as the height's concerned. Length is just a little longer. So with this one, you've got kind of more in the back. So let's measure the front to back, see what we get there. Now the Emeril does have kind of a hump that sticks out the back, I guess for pizzas and such. So that gets us at, let me see if I can get this stable. It gets us at about just under 14 inches. Yeah, just under 14 there, just under. And here in Ninja, because we're hitting the fan guard, we're actually only at 12 inches. We're just at 12 inches. Literally just at 12 inches as far as things you can put in there when you're hitting that fan guard. So the Emeril having kind of a hump in the back that sticks outward gives it a little more room than the Ninja that has the air fryer fan protector that sticks inward. So you have a little more room with your Emeril here. So let's do some further measurements of this Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Oven. And I'm going to start with the outside measurements and then I'll work my way in. But front to back here, we have, if you go all the way from the back to the handle, we have about 17 and a half inches from front to back. And you need to give a few inches clearance all around this thing too, to keep in mind. If we go from side to side, we've got 17 inches, so about 17 that way. And like I said, about 17 and a half this way. So that's pretty cool. And from top to bottom, we have, let's see, just about 13 inches. Yeah, it's a little over 13. Not even 13 and a half, but a little over 13 inches. And we'll open up, we'll do the inside again. Inside the side, we had about 14 and a half inches. Just raw top to bottom, not including the, where the racks would start and such. You've got about 10 and a half inches. As I mentioned, front to back, because you're hitting that fan guard there. Let me lock this. You're hitting that fan guard. You've got just about 12 inches there, and I mean it's just barely 12 inches. Barely 12 inches like that. That's pretty interesting stuff there for sure. So those are some measurements. Alright, now I'm going to do the initial plug-in here. So I'm just plugging it right in. And when you first plug in, you don't get anything, but you hit your power button here, and suddenly things start lighting up. Really nice display here. Real nice display of all this good stuff here. Alright, so I've given you a slight close-up of the display so that you can better see the display here. You can see all the different options. You can see the time, the temp. They have this rack level thing because depending on what you're cooking, you may want to do 1 or 2 racks of it. So it tells you the number for like if you're just doing 1 rack, and if you're doing 2 level, you would hit like this 2 level button here and it'd say, hey, you also want to put that second one on this other level. So it gives you the recommendations for 1 or 2 levels, and you see like your buttons for like light selection, selecting functions, time, temp, your start stop button, and we'll go into those a bit more in depth. Now the time and temp buttons, of course, up is up, down is down, but if you hold it, it'll go faster than if you're just doing like an individual press. So like you can just press like that, or if you hold, then it starts moving a bit more rapidly if you want to select your time or your temp a little faster, you can basically switch your time and temp faster if you just hold that in there. Now, even though you're supposed to, of course, clean the oven and all accessories before you use it, they also mention in the manual, on top of you making sure that you clean things well, that you also should put all the accessories in the oven and run it on air roast at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes before, without any food before using it, because that's going to remove all the residue off of all those accessories. Alright, so now it's time to do a little temperature testing. I've got the iGrow 2 ambient probe in there on the middle rack. Just going to make sure that's kind of setting up just right, like that, and close up. And I'm going to basically measure the temperature. I'm going to set things to, let's see, we'll use that air roast function. I'm going to go down to air roast, and I'm going to let it go ahead and run for like 30 minutes. You're supposed to use rack level 3 for air roast, but since I'm doing a temperature test, I'm going to just leave it kind of in the middle there, in the center. That's where I want it to be. And so I'm going to up the temperature as high as I can get it, so up to that 450 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll leave the time at 30 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And we're just going to see how the temperature changes as things continue. It's on the preheat right now. It's showing preheat flashing above the 30 minutes. So we'll see how it does as far as time to preheat, time to get, to certain temperatures comparatively on the ambient probe. You might sometimes see a P2 pop up on my ambient probe. It's trying to find if there's a probe in another jack, but there's not. So it'll keep coming back to the probe 1 and showing the temperature for what the ambient probe is reading as things go along. But we'll just let this run for a little bit. Alright, so it's finished, like, I guess it's 90-second preheat thing, and so it's starting to start counting down as far as time. I'm going to check my temperature. My temperature on my ambient probe, I have to kind of keep getting back. My probe, my iGrow 2 is getting a little hokey on me, but it still gives good temp for measuring on a probe that's in there. And it's showing like 137, 139, so it's like that 90-second preheat. Yeah, it's a 90-second preheat, but no, it's not a preheat to your target temperature. 90 seconds, we didn't get anywhere close to our target of 450 degrees Fahrenheit. We got somewhere in the 150 range in 90 seconds. Well, really, it was less than 150 after the first 90 seconds. Now we're well into getting almost a few minutes going, but it's still heating up basically. And so I guess that 90-second preheat is kind of like a jump start preheat, but it's not really a full preheat. I think, it's some interesting ways that they market that 90-second preheat, because they're not preheating, obviously, to your target temperature in 90 seconds. But it's kind of like a jump start before you put your cold food in, I guess. And I guess since it's a convection oven, and it's supposed to cook faster than a regular oven anyway, being able to have that jump start is going to help you to do things in pretty good time. But we see now that the cooker is almost a couple minutes in. It's up to about 200 degrees. Gonna let it keep going for a little while longer. Alright, it just crossed, or it's just reaching 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We see that it's been going for about 7 minutes, so maybe about 8.5 minutes for it to get to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, now we're at like 455 or so. So it took about almost 10 minutes, but we finally get to 450 and above after, almost 10 minutes of cooking. And you see it's like going a little over 450 in the 470s. At some point I expect it to regulate down and it'll get that temperature, further down so that it's not too far above 450. And you see it's kind of holding steady at like 470-ish or so. And it's starting to drop a little bit. So yeah, it kind of gets up to maybe about 470 or so, and then it tries to bring it back down. And sorry, my iGrow's kind of jumping around on you, but we do see that now it's just holding there. So after about almost 10 minutes, if you include the preheat time, that's when it really gets to like 450 and above from what we're seeing here. Now something I want to check on while it's running, there's an auto pause when you open the door. So I open the door, and you hear it starts to shut down. I guess I had to open the door far enough to trigger it, but you close up, it starts running again. I'm going to open it, and it auto pauses when you open. Make sure you open the door, you know, pretty far to make sure that it does that auto pause feature. So that's pretty interesting there. But I'm going to go ahead and just stop it at this point. And you know, I had it on air roast 450, 30 minutes, and it's supposed to remember that. So if I power off and I power back on, it still has air roast 30 minutes 450. But let's try if I turn it off and I do as they recommend and I unplug it. You know, they tell in the manual unplug it. So I unplug it as they recommend. I probably, you know, stop it from doing the cool down it was trying to do. But I'm going to plug it right back in now, and I'm going to check now that I've unplugged it, plugged it back in. I turn it on, and it remembered air roast 30 minutes 450. So it remembered what I had set even though I unplugged it, and that's pretty nice. So it has a built-in memory. You can unplug it and it still remembers all the settings that you had before. Shame this cooker doesn't have a clock, but hey, still pretty nice. Alright, and something I want to mention about this cooker, even after you stop a cook or something and you turn the power off, you still might hear a fan running and blowing for a while later while I guess it's going through completing a cool down sequence. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, it's still running, I turned it off. You know, just calm down, relax, let it, you know, go through its cycles. It'll stop when it's ready. So you might hear the fan kind of very faintly in the background here. But for anyone who gets this and you hear a fan or something running even after you turn it off, it's okay. Just let it do its cool down over time. Everything will be fine. Alright, so now I'm going to go through all the functions on this cooker. So turning it on, I'm going to go up to the whole roast function that you see here. Now, whole roast is used for whole large meats like a whole chicken, a whole turkey, and you can cook on whole roast for up to 4 hours. The temperature ranges for whole roast are 250 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. It'll preheat, you know, that quickie preheat, and then it'll start cooking right after the preheat. As you saw earlier, it just, you know, kicks right into cooking. It doesn't say, hey, add food or anything like that. It just starts cooking. You just have to basically open things up, it'll auto pause, and once you close up, it'll continue cooking. Also, when you're using the air roast, you would use a sheet pan with the roasting tray. So the sheet pan with the roast tray, and you place that on rack level 1 for just one layer. And you see here that it shows just rack level 1 for just one layer, and if I hit 2 layers, then it tells me 1 and 4. So with 2 layers, you'd have a sheet pan on rack level 1, and you could use like the air fry basket on level 4, so that you would have like your chicken on the bottom and your vegetables that you're roasting on top. Next, we'll go back to that air roast function. With air roast, it's for a sheet of meat and vegetables. You know, if you're doing like a meat and vegetables, you can use the air roast function, and it cooks for up to 4 hours, and temperature ranges on air roast are 250 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. It'll preheat, then start cooking, and you can use a sheet pan or the sheet pan with the roast tray and place it on level 1 for just one thing. So here actually it's showing level 3 is the recommended instead of level 1, and if you're using 2, it says use 1 and 3, but for just 1, it's showing just use rack level 3 for air roast here on the cooker. Next, let's go to air fry. And for air fry, we basically can cook for up to 4 hours. The temperature ranges are 250 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. It'll do a preheat, which is just that quickie 90 seconds preheat, and then start cooking. You can use an air fry basket on level 3 or 4 and place a sheet pan with the roasting tray on level 1 or level 2 underneath, you know, to like catch drippings. And you don't need anything underneath for dry food or food that doesn't have drippings. So we see it's recommending level 3 for just one thing, and if we go to hit 2, it says use levels 4 and level 2 if we have 2 racks there. Next, we'll check out bake, and with bake it can cook for up to 4 hours. Temperature ranges are 180 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. It does do the preheat, then start cooking. You can use a sheet pan on rack level 3 for 1 layer, or use another accessory. And if you're going to do 2, you can, as we see with 2, it says use level 1 and 3, and so you can do 1 and 3 for 2 layers. You can use parchment paper on the sheet pan when you're baking your cookies. Next, let's talk about dehydrate. And for dehydrate, you can dehydrate for up to 24 hours. Temperature ranges are 85 degrees Fahrenheit to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. No preheat on dehydrate. You can use like an air fry basket on level 3 for 1 layer, or if you want to do 2 layers, you see it recommends 2 and 4. So you can have an air fry basket on level 4 and a sheet pan on level 2 to do like 2 layers. And they offer a separate dehydrating kit to be able to dehydrate 4 levels at one time, because if you notice, this cooker has 1, 2, 3, 4 rack levels. So you could get their dehydrator kit and be cooking literally on all 4 layers. That would give you a lot of dehydrating room and space to do a lot of work dehydrating. Next, let's talk about broil. And with broil, it can cook for up to 30 minutes. It's a high or a low for the cooking options. For your temperature, you do high or low. That's it. That's all you get for broil. And they don't tell you the specific temperature that high and low do. They're just the options that you are able to choose. There's no preheat on the broil, and you put a roast tray on sheet pan on rack level 3 for just 1 layer, and there's no 2-layer option. You try 2, it just tells you can't do 2 with your broil. Next, let's talk about toast. And with the toast function, you can select the number of slices in the shade. It's not a temperature adjustable thing. You just do your slices in your shade. So your time would be slices and your temp would be shade. And there's no preheat, and you just put a wire rack on level 3 for your toasting. Next, let's talk about the bagel function. And with the bagel function, it's basically like toast. You just use bagels. Next, let's talk about the pizza function. With the pizza function, you can cook for up to 4 hours. Your temperature ranges are 180 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no mention of any preheat with pizza, but if we just hit start on pizza, we see no preheat starts at all. So there's no preheat with pizza at all. You can use a wire rack alone or put a sheet pan on it on level 3 for 1 layer of cooking a pizza, or you can have wire racks on levels. If you hit the 2, you hit 1 and 3. So basically you can put wire racks on level 1 and level 3 to do 2 pizzas simultaneously. The last function is the reheat function, and with the reheat function, you can reheat for up to 4 hours. Temperature ranges are 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and you basically place a sheet pan on the wire rack on level 3, and you can basically do your reheating. If you hit the 2-layer button, there's no option for 2 layers on reheat. Now I'm just kind of moving the cooker over to start doing some test cooks, and I want to tell you, even though it was kind of hot running earlier, I'm able to move it and it's not too hot. But exterior does get hot during cooking though, but it's been off for a while. So after it's been off for a while, I'm able to touch the sides and move it. But keep in mind, this metal on the outside does get hot. It does get hot. Alright, so the first thing I want to test cook is some toast using my large homemade bread here. And the cooker is still a little warm, so it's going to have to be smart enough to compensate for the fact that it's already warm and I want my toast, and I don't want my toast burnt up. But I have a rack on level 3, which I believe is good for toasting. And got my bread in there. And I'm just going to turn things on, and we're going to go up to that toast function. And I'm going to say, yeah, I've got, let's say 4 slices. They're kind of big. We'll do shade, let's see. The most we could do is 7, so we're going to take it down to 5. We want to put a little, put a little good brownness on there. And so it's doing 5 minutes for those 2 big slices I have there. And we'll see what we get with 5 minutes. Now this bread has been cooking for over 3 minutes now. Keep in mind the cooker was already kind of warm, but my bread did come out of the refrigerator. And what I'm seeing so far, I just want to show you, my bread's already looking pretty well toasted, So it seems like because it's already warm, it doesn't really register or kind of adjust itself down really good when it's already warm. Like the Cuisinart cookers, they adjust really well to if things are already hot and you put in some bread to toast, adjusting down to still get that toast at a really nice cook exactly where you want it. Whereas with this Ninja, it's kind of like it says, well, I guess we skipped the preheat or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to preheat for toast, but it's like, it doesn't really seem to well compensate for the fact that the cooker's already hot when it's cooking toast. It just kind of like goes through this routine, and you kind of get what you're going to get. And we're going to see what we get here in a moment, because we've just got some seconds left. But I think it's going to be more to the overdone end than what we would want. So what you want to keep in mind with this cooker when you are doing toast is if it's already warm, you're going to have to keep an eye on it. You're going to want to manually stop things before your bread gets too overdone, because here we are at the end, and my bread is, I'd say this is more than a 5 out of 7 in my opinion. That's probably a little more done than you would want it. I mean, and here we've got some actual burnt, so keep that in mind. The toast function doesn't compensate for when things are already hot in the cooker. Alright, now I'm going to test baking some croissants. Things are still kind of warm in the cooker, but I will stop these when I see that I think they're done. I won't let this burn up my croissant, Burning up a couple slices of toast, okay, just for demonstration purposes, but I'm not going to let it just burn up my croissants here, my crescent rolls. They're crescents, not croissants. But anyway, let's go to the bake function, and we want to, as they recommend, we want 375. Of course, we're going to have to shorten the time. We could lower the temp. We could lower it to 350 because, you're supposed to lower it a little bit when you're doing like one of these convection cookers. And you're supposed to bake it for 9 to 12 minutes. I'm going to just tend towards the 9-minute side of things, thinking that it's probably going to finish up kind of quick. So I'm going to go ahead and get these out. I'm just going to put them on this sheet here, and I'll go ahead and spray a little cooking spray on that. Alright, so got all my crescent rolls laid out, and going to put them in here on the rack here. Now I figure it's probably going to skip a preheat because things are already warm in the cooker, and I assume correctly in this case. So it's just going to do the 9 minutes or so. I'll keep an eye on things, and I'll bring you back in a moment. Alright, we've got about roughly 30 seconds left, but the crescent rolls at 350, and maybe I should have used 375, are not looking fully done. I've just kind of like clicked on the light to take a peek. You can see they're not fully done yet, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to up time. I can just press the up button, and that just adds like just add a couple minutes, which is pretty convenient. So just add it a couple minutes, it's going to continue to cook. Alright, I'm going to add one more minute, so basically they'll go the full 12 minutes. Alright, we're coming into the final seconds of what will be a 12-minute cook. I did use 350 instead of 375 since I'm baking in a convection type oven that cooks things a little faster or a little hotter than usual. And after 12 minutes you can see that my crescent rolls are looking done there. You know, they're lightly done. I could have of course done 375 to hit them at the full temp, and that would have probably cooked them much darker, but 350 at the 12 minutes came out pretty decent. So just getting them all off here. And for this one I'll just break it open. See it looks you know, it's all done in there, it's all flaky and done. I'll even take a small bite. Yeah, it's done. It's all done. So you can cook up your crescent rolls in a pretty decent time, even on a slightly lower temp for this type of cooker. Alright, so gonna do an air fry test now. Got myself some chicken bites here from the local Sam's Club. Nothing in this video is sponsored, by the way. Didn't get that for free from anyone. Had to pay for it with my own money. And basically going to do some air frying here now. And for air frying, I usually like, and this is just my personal preference, I'm going to go to the air fry function, and I'm going to do, let's see how much I can do in temp. I'm going to do 400, and I'm going to do just about 8 minutes at 400. That's what I usually like to do. And then get some of these chicken bites out here. I just got a plate underneath so I don't get crumbs all over my counter. But just sticking basically the remainder of these chicken bites I have left in this bag into the basically crisper basket there, or air fry basket, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to put anything underneath, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in because it's already warm in there, so I think it's probably going to forego its preheat function. And so let's stick that on in there like so. And we've got it on rack level 3, so I'm going to hit start, and as I thought, skips the preheat. It's right in the cooking. Going to let those run for about 8 minutes and then bring you on back. And I just want to say, as things are cooking on air fry, it makes a lot more noise on air fry. I mean, it's nothing crazy, it's nothing loud, really loud, but it sounds a bit more like an air fryer, when you're running in the air fry mode. With the other cooking modes, it didn't make a lot of noise. Toast didn't make a lot of noise. Bake didn't make a lot of noise. But air fry, I guess it's got that fan going, and it's making some noticeable noise now. Alright, we're coming into the final seconds of a cook of chicken nuggets, or chicken bites, at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 minutes. And so, now that it's over, I'm going to go ahead and check them with my Thermopen. So get one out here and let's check. We see temperature is not very hot in there. I mean, that's disappointing. That's disappointing. They are not hot at all. I mean, man, that's disappointing. I mean, I could have done like the Ninja double air fryer, 8 minutes on a side, and they would have been crispy. So this is disappointing to not have them done in 8 minutes there. I'm going to bump it on up to 450, and I'm going to try and do a time of, let's say, 4 minutes. Let them run for about 4 minutes like that. We'll see what we get. I'll bring you back. Alright, now we're coming into the final seconds of what has been a 12-minute cook, the last 4 at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. We certainly should have some properly cooked chicken bites now. And yeah, they're looking proper now. They're looking good now. This is the type of look I like to see in my chicken bites. And we pop the thermopin in there. Yeah, we're at 165 plus. So we see that, you know, basically for air frying, it can air fry, but you are going to need a little more of the time for air frying, or maybe to bump your temperatures up more than you would in a basket style of air fryer to get some equivalent results. So I gotta say, I think even if I had done 450 for the first 8 minutes, I probably wouldn't have gotten things as done as I would in a basket air fryer at 400 for just 8 minutes. So probably need about maybe 10 to 12 minutes, depending on you know, how hard you cook them. But they are done now, and so we see that we're able to do all kinds of cooks in this cooker. And you know, with any type of cooker, it may be good at some things and not as good as with others. But with a cooker like this, it's large, so it's got more space that has to be heated up and filled up. So you have to consider that. And so I think overall, you can cook everything you want in this cooker, and it did a pretty decent job with that. Now I want to talk to you about cleaning this cooker. When it comes to that air fry basket, hand washing is recommended, but I will say with those basically air fry baskets, I do them in the dishwasher usually because they get all types of stuff stuck on them. The dishwasher just seems to knock it out real easy. This sheet pan, what I kind of call sometimes a baking pan, but the sheet pan is hand wash only. Remember, hand wash only on the sheet pan. And likewise, this roasting tray is also hand wash only. Do not put these in the dishwasher. The wire racks are hand wash recommended. Not mandatory, but recommended. The removable crumb tray down there that you slide out when things are cool and you can wash it, that is hand wash only. I can say that for that guard on the fan in the back, you probably can wash that in your dishwasher. I know for the Ninja Foodi Grill XL, I washed that same piece of equipment in the dishwasher and never had a problem. For the unit, you want to use warm soapy water and wipe it off, allow things to dry afterwards, and that'll, you know, that's how you clean all the interior and other parts of the unit. Of course, you don't want to submerge this unit in any type of water. Alright, so let's talk about warranties and such for this cooker. If you buy it directly from Ninja, it has a 60-day money-back guarantee. Otherwise, you have a 1-year limited warranty on this cooker. And so I do hope that you like this. We see how it was able to perform in its different types of cooks and paces and such. And so with all that, I'll just say that in the video description you can find referral links. You can find also other ways to help this channel. You can always join as a member to get other perks that others won't get from this channel. Also, I have like recipes for this type of cooker and other types of cookers on my blog at superwaveovenrecipes.com. And you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wave Oven Recipes. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and good eating.